So welcome everyone to the first Permi Festival of the year, the February Permi Festival, and thank you all for coming. So I'd like to just quickly acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, which is something we do in Australia for our events. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we each respectively meet, and I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to start first off by welcoming Maddie Harland. So she's the co-founder and CEO of Permaculture Publications, which has published over 100 permaculture books. And she's also co-founder of the Permaculture magazine, which has well over 100 issues now. And I'd really like to formally thank you for shining a light on our work and letting us share it far and wide through the Permaculture magazine. For those who don't know, Permyouth won the Permaculture Youth in Permaculture Prize this year. One of the Permaculture Youth in Prize ones. And we're very excited to share our stories and contributing in the magazine. So it's lovely to see. I remember a few years ago we went and visited you in your backyard and lovely food forests. That was awesome. I think it was in 2019. And yeah, so I'd just like to ask you about, so you've been in the permaculture movement for ages now, and
yeah,
not that old.
Oh no, ages.
What are some of the ways you'd like to see youth getting involved in permaculture around the world?
I think that's just like the most important thing of all, because you know, my generation, I was talking to my kids a few days ago who are like late 20s, early 30s, and we were saying that for women, things have changed so radically in the last 5 years since the Me Too movement. There's much, much greater awareness of how, you know, much greater awareness of equality and not gaslighting women and not, you know, removing that oppression. But we've got so far to go with so many other aspects of oppression. And my experience from my daughters as millennials is that they're deeply aware of things like racism, Indigenous rights, discrimination against people who aren't just the status quo, like so non-binary people. They have a deep awareness, but they'll say that the next generation, which is you, are even more embedded and have more consciousness around these issues, and that you've grown up with in a way, greater freedom. You also have incredible skills that are, you know, completely natural to you, and an intuition about things like permaculture. It doesn't need to be proven to you, it's just total common sense. Whereas for people like myself, and dare I say your mum Morag, in a way, but by doing what we've done in our lives, we've kind of swum against the tide and like struck out and have been you know, bit like the crazy people when we first started, and now that huge body of common sense and wisdom is just being taken up. So you've got so much more energy, and you know, us people like me who've been in the permaculture movement for 3 decades, we need to hand over. You know, we need to be inspired by new vision and new energy. We need new art and culture and music. You know, we don't want it to stay the same. We want it to evolve. So it's incredibly important. And when you think that the Commonwealth nations, which is I think there's 53 now, over 60% of those nations are under, I think, 40. And much younger. So this is the future, and we in a way don't have to get out the way. We just have to learn how to be gracious elders and facilitate you.
Yeah, definitely. And also with the youth projects that are springing up all around the world, like handing it over. So you've seen a lot of these projects. What are some of the really inspiring youth ones that you've seen happening around the world?
I love it when you see the seeds of permaculture being sown in such difficult situations. So we've had last year, one of our winners was working on gardens and community projects in Afghanistan, which under very tough circumstances. Obviously, there's the projects that are coming out of refugee camps of people who have absolutely nothing but vision and hope and a few seeds. And that's the kind of thing that really impresses me. It's like the less you have, you would think the less opportunity you have. And yet I see that with the energy of the youth projects being turned on its head. And I see a tremendous amount of wisdom as well, and ability. So that I'm just inspired by all of these projects and all of the applicants that come into the Youth in Permaculture Prize.
Hmm.
I want more. I want to make it bigger.
Yeah. Hmm.
Actually, I just was looking through our participant list, and one of the young men that we work with in Kakumi refugee settlement is actually here, Somali, and also I noticed too that Ola Tom is here, who was also a runner-up winner in the Youth in Permaculture Prize. So that's fantastic. And actually, Somali, who I mentioned, who lives in Kakuma refugee settlement, is going to be releasing his fourth permaculture song, and we'll be doing that today.
Yep.
And we're also in the midst of working to raise funds for him to have a music film studio in the refugee settlement. And just yesterday, he was getting another group of young people to take their song and get it recorded. So it's all wonderfully exciting, and congratulations, Somali, for all the amazing work that you do.
A short comment, and that I was really moved by the desire to move towards greater equality, and you made me remember back to my mother, who was inspired in the 1960s by Julia Child, who actually went to the cooking school in France and everything. And when I was 5 or 6 years old, we lived in Paris, and my mother had to learn French from scratch. And she was really inspired by Julia Child and her independence. And then my mother went on to teach 10,000 kids music. And she did a master's degree on the 11 modalities of learning, how there are auditory learners and visual learners and tactile learners, and all these different 11 ways of learning. And she was really part of women's liberation movement in the 1960s and 1970s and 1980s. And how it's amazing how each generation, well, stands on the shoulders of giants in some ways. And I think that's really important as we go forward to understand it does take sometimes centuries to really achieve equality, but it's worth moving towards in an integrated way. So I want to thank you, Maddie, for that inspiration.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, it's very, I mean, you know, Mayor, you started by acknowledging the First Nation people of your land, and I can't really do that because they were possibly Celts and about possibly 3,000 years ago. And since then, there's just been a big passage of lots of different people coming onto this land, including the Vikings where I live, although we can still see the Celtic field boundaries from the Kingdom of Wessex on our downland. But one of the principles I think so important is that you honour your ancestors, and that we acknowledge where our knowledge comes from. So for me, I think it's so important in the permaculture movement that if you learn something from someone else, you should always provenance that learning and pay tribute to the work that they've done, and honour them with that. And that for me is really important, because it's really easy to take lots of other people's ideas and be very clever and give wonderful presentations, but it has no heart. So yeah, I urge the Perma Youth crowd to just remember where you've learnt it from, and mention it, because you will then be standing on the shoulders of giants rather than crouching like a parasite on the shoulder of giants. And that's why I wanted to honour Brian for his work, because his work has inspired me, and I've told so many people about it, you know, because I think it is an absolute beacon of hope for the oceans in this world. It's what needs to happen all over the world, in every sea and ocean. We need marine permaculture and marine permaculture arrays, and it's brilliant and so inspiring, so inspiring.
Thank you, Maddie. And I want to say that I'm working with David Holmgren on applying the dozen design principles of permaculture to the marine environment. And he gave me a really wonderful gift. He told me that, decades ago, when his advisor was just spending time in Tasmania, he, Bill, is it Mollison? I'm trying to remember now.
Yeah.
He actually got the inspiration for permaculture from the kelp forest of eastern Tasmania. So there was this inspiration that occurred in the 1960s, I believe. And it was from that inspiration of watching the seabirds and the marine mammals and the kelp forest and the invertebrates all together, that he then took it to the rainforests of Tasmania and really investigated the marsupials and all this, along with David Holmgren. And so in a real sense, it's coming full circle that we're taking an original inspiration from Bill Mollison and applying it now, decades later, to the full circle of learning. And I will say that, you know, there's this full circle of ecosystems as well, that as we improve permaculture on land, there's less runoff that creates a better environment for the kelp forest. And those kelps can provide nutrients and biostimulants and so many benefits for the permaculture on land. And so we're getting a full circle of the ecosystem as well. So we're just thrilled to be part of that. And it's, to me, it's a great closure. And I'm working with David on a book on marine permaculture, and it's a great closure to integrate these aspects and take the design principles, which have been solid and true, and applying them to a new ecosystem. So we're so enthused to be working on this, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with all of you.
Thanks, David. That's sorry, Brian. I'm going to say that's so great that you're working with David, and we're looking forward to seeing that book. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Yeah. A pleasure's mine.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear about the kelp forests and how that influenced it.
Maya, there was one question which I could answer really briefly, and then I could perhaps go and hand over. But it was from Brent Cairns, who said, since COVID, we've been looking harder at food security, and people have said that many are not interested in growing their own food. Can you suggest what hook or ideas we need to get more people interested in growing their own food? So you've had Hugh Richards on, my friend, who is a great advocate of growing your own food and has been running his YouTube channel since he was about 12, and is, you know, a fabulous gardener. And so many people are really into health and superfoods and being fit and working out in the gym. And it just seems to me like when you grow your own food, you have the most healthy, organic superfood you could possibly imagine. And you work out and you're really fit. So you get these double benefits. And then if you grow food in a permaculture system, you have this wonderful relationship with nature. So instead of sitting there watching wildlife TV shows, you actually are living the life of making more habitat and more wildlife in your own garden. So you get yet another benefit. And then when we have COVID and our food systems start to get really stressed, we have a sense of like, well, it's okay, because actually I've got quite a few months of food growing in my garden, so I don't need to panic about what's in the shops or not. And you save loads of money. So the benefits of growing food and hooking people into it as a solution are huge. And people just, I mean, my experience is people don't respond well to a constant stream of bad news. They want to feel more, they want to feel stronger, more capable, more able to create solutions in their own lives. And growing food for me is like step one in that process of feeling like you've got more determination and more power. So that would be my answer to
That's a
Greg.
beautiful wrap up, I reckon, Matt.
Yeah, well, that was where I was
That's
aiming to go,
beautiful.
so I could hand over to dear Luby and Taya.
Yeah.
Hi, Taya.
Oh, thanks for joining us, Maddie. It's so wonderful to have
Pleasure.
you
You got me out of bed.
here. Hey! All
Thanks
right.
for inviting me. Take care. Lovely to see you, Maya.
Yeah. Bye, Maddie.
And,
Thanks for being
everyone
here.
else.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey Maya, Morag.
Hello. Welcome to the show.
So
Thanks for having us.
I think we'll start on your thing now, Luby. So for those who don't know, Luby's a permaculture educator, author, designer, and practitioner who's been doing it for years. And it's lovely to see you again because we visited you at Applewood too when we went to the UK. And yeah, so you've written heaps of books. So you've written 7 Ways to Think Differently, which is now a free ebook, and Permaculture in People, and a book of poetry, and your new book, Cultural Emergence. So would you mind just telling us a bit about your amazing book and also explain the theory of cultural emergence and social permaculture?
Wow, some nice easy questions to start me off then on what it's all about. The permaculture has come from like permanent culture, and it gives us the opportunity to look at all the patterns that of thinking and behaving that are beneath the surface of what we do. So Maddie talked about our food systems, and our food systems come from the worldviews that we inhabit from our culture, and it's what we see out in the garden or in the farms of what happens, whether we're using fertile chemicals on the land or whether we're doing it organically. Those decisions come from our worldviews and our patterns. So when we start changing our patterns of thinking and changing our culture, then what happens in terms of creating regenerative systems or not shifts. So that's part of it, to look at then how we can use different patterns in our behaving and make different routines and habits in our lives that then create different cultures around us, and looking towards regenerative cultures.
Cool. So yeah, that was nice. I really like your book. It's awesome. So
Thank
yeah.
you.
Oh, and actually, just sorry, before you continue, you told me the other day, Luby, that your 7 Ways of Thinking Differently is now an ebook. So we'll share that with everyone after this as well, so they can get that. I think it's just such a brilliant little book of, like really happy to dive into.
Yeah, we want to, so this is in collaboration with me and Maddie. We've decided to release this because it is a concise book. It's quite, an easy read for people. That is an entry point then into this, what I said was ways of thinking differently. And that came from the question that I'm sure all of you have had loads of times, that what is permaculture, and that big sort of like, whoa, what is permaculture? It's so many different things. But so my answer was always, well, it's about thinking differently, and when you start shifting your thinking, then what happens out in the world starts shifting. And so I created this book, wrote it as my kind of an extended response to that question of what is permaculture. So yeah, it's available. We decided to release it as a free ebook to really send it out into the world at this time when I think we all do need ways in thinking differently at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we're really keen writers too as Perm Youth, and we're planning to write a book a Pemi book. So can you tell us a bit about how you got into writing your books and how you go about it, and what was the process that you created them?
Well, so my first book, which is People and Permaculture, I started in 2010, and actually I thought for quite a while beforehand, oh, it'd be great to have this book on people care. Someone out there should write it. And then it was like, okay, actually, I need to write it. And I had this real limiting belief for a long time of like, well, if I'm writing a book about people care, I need to be this perfect person that never argues with my family. And, you know, it's, like Taya's just laughing when I said that, you know, and just, you know, so I was like, oh, I've got to be this perfect person. And then it was like, actually, I think the world needs it before I'm likely to be a perfect person. So I reframe that belief of like, okay, actually, I'll learn in the process. I'll learn and improve my people care skills in the process. And so then when I made that reframe, then it was like, okay, I'm making a commitment to writing this book. And actually, I did this coaching session with someone, and we described where this project was at the moment. And I was like, oh, it's like this crystal, this rose quartz crystal egg, and all like beautiful waiting to birth. And then I was like, yeah, but it's also like a broken drawer. I keep on walking past it, and it's actually taking me more energy to ignore that or put it on my, you know, future list of things to do, rather than just getting on and doing it. And so, you know, that broken drawer was one of the, from a like decluttering book, kind of energizing book or something. It was just like, actually, even these little small tasks that we have take up our energy, and that we can actually, if we focus our energy on doing them rather than thinking about them or avoiding them, then we can move forward with them. So I then went, okay, I'm moving from that stage. And then I'll describe the stages that I went through in the coaching session, because it was really kind of quite how it manifested out. And the first stage was like this kind of chaotic whirlwind stage of ideas and all this, like, you know, going on. And then and I used this principle of catch and store energy. So anytime I had a conversation, or like on a train or something, would just write things down. It was just like little notes here and there, mind maps, folders. I've always got a notebook with me just to capture that energy when it comes through the system. It's like rainwater. It's like, you don't want to let it leave the system. You want to catch it, and then you can, you know, those little drops build up. And then you can use them for something useful. And then we and then I went through to the next stage, which I called a rainbow tree, because my coach had this lovely patchwork. So it's kitchen, breakfast kitchen things happening here in the UK. She had patchwork thing of this rainbow tree, and it was like that. It was like, you just focus on the patch at the time, and it builds up and builds up and builds up. And then the last stage was about releasing it into the world, and that being ready to share that with the world. And that's really important as well, to be ready to do that. So I think that, so going back to sort of tips for yourselves, you know, I really designed the process. So it was really like, what do I need? Oh, I needed some interruption-free space, and we had a shed, literally like a 2 meter by 2 meter shed in the garden that had tools in it, and we cut a hole in the wood. There's no insulation. It was like, you know, the basic of basic sheds, not a sort of euphemism for a fancy thing. It was a shed.
Yeah.
And we cut a hole in, put a tiny desk in there, ran an extension lead down from the house, put a gas heater in, and I used to go there sometimes at like 5 o'clock in the morning in the summer, and I would have no internet, which was great. I recommend that when you're writing, turn your internet off, otherwise you'll never get your book written. That would be a key thing. And so that I did that. But if you're in a collaborative project, then it's working out what you need as a team, and kind of designing that as a team.
Mm. Yeah, that explanation of catching ideas was really good, like in the permaculture principle sense. Like, I mean, I've seen it in like well-being magazines and before, but yeah, I really like that explanation of kind of collecting ideas. So I'd also like to ask about what would you like to encourage young people in permaculture to do today?
Sorry, in a family space here, and there's lots happening. When I talk about regenerative cultures, I bring it down to 3 things. One of them being personal leadership, so creating cultures of personal leadership. The other is creating a culture of collective wisdom, and the third is earth care. And so these cultures that we create, so you can do that as your youth, is like, so your personal leadership, to really question who you want to be in the world, what you want to do. And that's, you know, really important, to just don't accept the status quo, and just really question that, come into your own leadership with that. Question your own personal culture, because we often think of as culture as this thing we belong to that's out there and we don't have any choice, but actually we've all got a personal culture. Like, you know, Taya's got a different personal culture to me, to Shanti, to Chris, and even in the same house. And, you know, and then, you know, Maya and Taya, you're part of a culture of the youth here of a certain age group. So but just to kind of question that and take responsibility for your own personal culture, what you let in terms of the media you look at, and what you're choosing to do with your time. And then with collective wisdom, I'd like to say that, you know, to not be shy about sharing your wisdom. So if you're in a permaculture group or something, either, you know, if you've got elders there and, you know, people from different age groups, and I know you said me and Maddie, we've been involved in permaculture for ages, but sometimes we get stuck in patterns and stuck in limiting beliefs of what we think can or can't happen, whereas actually the context has changed, and maybe something that 10 years ago we tried and didn't work could work now. And so, you know, to actually be willing to share your ideas, and to have courage there to share your ideas and contribute to this collective wisdom. And, you know, there's the beginner's mind that is really valuable, whether that's you're being a beginner because you've just come to permaculture, even though you might be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or whether you're a beginner because you've come as a young person in there. And then earth care, to again kind of taking responsibility for your choices, and to, you know, grow food, to look at your you know, the waste you're creating, and to just connect with the world. So, you know, actually look, like Taya's got some lovely pictures that she'll show you of you know, the animals at Applewood and some of the domestic ones. We've got one, do you want to, we've got our cat just coming in now. Here you go. So this is Milky, who doesn't like people in real life, other people in real life, but you know, on Zoom she's happy to show her face, and so to just connect with the clouds and the sunshine and the worms in the soil and plants and dandelions coming through cracks in the pavement. If you're out in cities, and you might be like, well, I'm in the city, there's no wildlife here, but actually there's plenty of plants and insects and spiders in the bathroom, just to really connect with the more than human world in whatever small way you can is possible. I think that's where the care will come from the interest and the attention and the awareness and the fascination and the curiosity. So really feed that curiosity about the more than human world.
I love what you said about the curiosity, feeding the curiosity, but also watching what you let in. I think that's a really, really important one.
Yeah.
I wonder whether we should pass to Taya. Thank you so much, Luby. I mean, such a rich set of inspirations and insights, and I think, I also really love the reflection that Maya had too on this idea of it being around that catch and store energy and the just not letting any drop of those ideas go while you're really trying to cultivate your book. I think it's really exciting what you're doing together. Yeah. Oh, and we have
Hi. Yeah, so it's true that actually it just those little drops, you don't know where they'll come in the book. And actually while I've got both of these lovely daughters here, they've really been part of the whole writing of Cultural Emergence because of lockdown. They've both been at home, so Shanti read one of my first drafts and was really really useful in saying, what are you talking about here, and just really like flagging up and also like, oh, that sounds a bit suspect, and when I wasn't quite using the right words and maybe some of the word phrasing was a bit exclusionary, she really picked up on those things for me. So Shanti was really useful in reading that and editing that, and then Taya was really useful. She was, I've got a whole load of cultural emergence principles that I was turning into graphics, like with the permaculture principles, with what David Holmgren did. And Taya would sit out with me and I'd show her that I had principle cards, and she'd help me think through some of the images, and then she'd be scanning all the images for me as well. So she really helped with that process. So great big gratitude to the two of them. So maybe they'd like to get involved in your Perma Youth book as well, because they've got a bit of experience there.
Fantastic.
So Taya, would you like to, you've got some pictures of apple, would you want to share? So this is our garden tour for the festival. So
these more photos from last year. As well. That's our apple juice making. You didn't carry on.
I love the guitar playing.
Yeah.
Amazing
you.
photos too.
Wow, what a beautiful place. And I love the fact that you had them, like some from the snowy times and some from when it was just fully bloom, and what abundance of beautiful berries everywhere. I mean, just absolute cornucopia. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Hmm.
Thank
Wow.
you.
What a lovely place to live.
Just a question, was that a legless lizard or a snake in one of the pictures?
It was a slow worm.
Oh,
Well, no, there was a snake and a slow worm. Yeah, there was one where there was I think it was a pregnant slow worm that we were holding in our hands, and then there was just a grass snake in the polytunnel.
cool.
Yeah, which is quite unusual here for the UK.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
there's a really big one as well. Like,
Yeah.
And what's your
Far beyond.
favorite? What's your favorite foods from there? All those different sorts of berries. Which ones do you like the most? You look forward to the most?
last year we had like a massive amount of cherries from our cherry tree, and so I was like climbing up into it and picking loads of berries, and then like trying to pass like buckets of berries down to other people without them spilling, and then like getting another bucket handed up. I spent like 2.5 hours just like sat in the tree picking cherries, and that was quite lovely.
I was just mostly eating the cherries.
Mm. Yeah, we can't grow stone fruits here, but yeah, lots of bananas. But,
Bananas, mangoes,
Mm.
yeah,
Oh, lovely.
lots of things like that.
Ooh, you grow
Yeah.
mangoes over there.
I wonder, now that we've got Taya and Shanti here together, maybe we could ask them about what it's like growing up in a permaculture family. Maybe you've grown up with permaculture your whole life. What's it like for you, and how's it shaped what you're doing too, Shanti? And thank you for being a wonderful judge in the Youth in Permaculture Prize too.
Oh, no worries. It was really inspiring
bet.
reading about what you're doing with Perma Youth. It was lovely to judge. Yeah, it's I think growing up with permaculture, like initially it was just kind of ingrained into like my way of life, and I didn't really question it that much. But then I think as I've grown older, I've become more aware, but not enough people know about it. And I wanted to really deepen my understanding of permaculture, because I kind of grew up living with permaculture, but I didn't have as many of the like practical skills that I wanted to have, because it was kind of almost taken for granted. But I think as I've grown older, I've understood like, okay, this is like completely necessary, and I get really excited whenever I just come across someone that knows of permaculture, and it's been quite interesting to see how more people I know of permaculture before I tell them about permaculture now, which is great. Yeah, but it's kind of weird, because growing up there weren't really many people my age that I connected with that knew about permaculture at all. I can think of maybe like 3 people from my childhood that I've known since, from my childhood, but were aware of permaculture. But yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a question in the chat is, do you guys go to school?
Taya does.
I go to secondary school. I'm in year 8 while we're doing online learning now. But Shanti did go to.
I went to primary school, when I was homeschooled for a bit, and then I went to secondary school, and I've been to 4 colleges. And yeah, because I have lots of interests and a kind of like frantic mind that dots between lots of different interests. Yeah, so I went to a normal college, which was horrible, and then I went to an art college and a circus college, and now I'm currently doing a music production course at technically a college, but it's a uni level course.
Wow, fantastic. Are you thinking of ways that you can use those kind of theatre, music skills to engage people in learning about permaculture? Is that also part of what you're thinking?
Definitely. I think I kind of, the dream is to have a bit of land somewhere and create like a music recording studio there and run circus workshops and permaculture workshops, and maybe create like mini, like twice yearly festival there that involves all of those things. Because I've got friends in like I've got friends in like the music industry, the circus industry, like all across the board, and it would be nice to like connect people.
Wonderful. I hope you stick around long enough to hear Somali's song. Somali's in the middle on my screen, nodding away and smiling now. Hi, Somali. Somali's starting up his own recording studio, and we're going to show his latest song that he and his crew, the Ambassador Crew, Perma Youth Ambassador Crew, they're calling themselves. They've written the music together, and Somali has directed the film that goes with this. So I hope you stick around and see that too, because his big dream too is to start up his own recording studio, and he's at Kakuma Refugee Settlement up in the top of Kenya, where it stays about 40 degrees pretty much consistently throughout the year, I hear. Wow. Yeah. And what about you, Taya? Was there anything in particular that you in response to Maya's question about growing up with permaculture? Is it just, I guess it's just normal for you, isn't it? It's just like, well, it just is.
I mean, yeah, because like everyone at school, they're all like into like makeup and pop stars and all that. And like, but I'm growing up in a permaculture household. So it's like different because there's two different worlds. There's school and there's home, and they don't really interconnect. And you like at school, you've got to, it's like, you can't really, if you want to talk about permaculture, then you've got to be in a certain gang, which doesn't, like, it's different because you can't just all have permaculture, because there's the popular kids, and then there's like, yeah, different gangs of people that there isn't really a permaculture kind of gang, so you can't really talk about it to anyone at school. It's because there's, yeah.
You know, that's what I think is
And
so
then there's
awesome about this
home.
Perma Youth stuff, is that, you know, people can talk around the world with other people their age who are into permaculture. And I think, you know, it's an opportunity that maybe you didn't even have, Shanti, or I definitely didn't have to find other people my age to talk about permaculture stuff on a regular basis and have friends doing that.
Yeah, I can relate to that too. I just started homeschooling recently. I came back from school, so yeah.
Cool. Homeschooling's the way for some people. Yeah, I think what really helped me as well is I went on some like youth and permaculture exchanges. So I think that was really great to meet people my own age from like all over Europe. It was really like eye-opening, and I mean I'm still in contact with people I've met there, even though we only spent like 10 days together. Like I know that we are still like friends and made like really meaningful connections in those 10 days, which is great.
Actually, that was one of the questions we had for you, was about how we can connect more with Perma Youth into UK and Europe, and connect too with youth in permaculture, because I know you've been involved in the youth in permaculture movement. Be lovely to make a stronger connection there.
I think what was really sweet as well when I was on those exchanges is, I mean, I was shocked that there were so many young people involved in permaculture, and they were shocked as well. They were like, there's so many people here that know about permaculture around my age. Where have they been all my life?
Yeah, that's so cool. And it's really lovely too. I'm just going to point to this. We've got Alan in Costa Rica. So he's one of the team who's just starting up Perma Youth Americas. And then we have Somali, who's started up with a few others, Perma Youth in Kakuma.
And then Ola Tom, Perma Youth Kitgum, and Bemariki, which is Perma Youth Ramonja, which is another refugee camp in Uganda.
Yeah, and there's a Southeast Queensland local hub, as well as these sort of bigger groups. So it's kind of, it's growing every week. There's sort of new groups that are forming. It's so fantastic. So
does anyone else have any questions for Taya or Luby or Shanti? Yes, there's quite a few homeschoolers here. A lot of people in Perma Youth, well, the majority actually are homeschooled. So, yeah.
And also Seamus said his school started, many schools are starting to develop growing spaces, which attracts like-minded people. So that's cool. How do you feel about starting your own school garden? There's lots of school gardens happening. It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, that's a really interesting place to connect.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, also there's a thing that's what is the experience of homeschooling for you?
I really enjoyed it. I had like my tribe of people that I would run around with, and it was so freeing compared to primary school, where I was quite different from everyone there. I was English, we were in Wales. I was always leaving permaculture courses. I was also pretty weird, and everyone else kind of fit in. So it was really wonderful homeschooling. It kind of fell apart a bit when we moved, because there wasn't really much of a homeschooling network. So I went to secondary school, which was not fun. But yeah, well, I mean, if school's fun for you, I'm not sure if I trust you. But yeah, so homeschooling was definitely great.
Yeah, for me, I went to primary school, and then in grade 5 I started homeschooling, and then I thought I might try high school. So, and then I got a scholarship to go to a private school, so I went there, and just at the start of this year I was like, nope, I'm going back to homeschooling again. So yeah.
Well, I reckon we should say thank you very much to our guests and move into the part where we actually welcome some of our musicians and artists as well, although we have already had musicians contribute. Thank you so much, Shanti, and thank you so much for sharing your pictures as well, Taya. That was a wonderful way
No worries.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you were able to join in today. It's just
very
fantastic.
nice to see.
Yeah. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Lovely to speak to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Libby.
So what we'd like to show first is Somali's new their new song, which is called Water. So Somali, would you like to quickly introduce that if you have enough bandwidth?
Hello.
Hi, Somali. Nice to see you. I'm glad you're feeling well again.
Yeah, now I'm pleased. I'm okay. I'm doing better. I have a greetings. Your greetings here from all my youth who are living here in Kakuma and Kalbe. They greet you, and they told me to pass their greetings.
Cool.
That is the first thing, and the second thing is that I was with a former youth from Kalbe, the new artist and musician. So I went with them to the studio, and we have recorded. The song is still there, but it is not out. So I think that is to see how the permaculture is continuing to be expanded in all over the world, expanding to many people and engage many youth to join permaculture. in such ways. And for really, I'm very inspired and very happy to hear even Shanti wants to be a musician. And this will help to improve and educating more people, because the music is something that goes to many people in short time. It will reach many. I think that will be greater. But also, maybe I want to talk about Palma users who are in Kalubeye. Right now, they have a challenge.
So while he's frozen, I'll just let you know that Somali is in Kakuma, which is the very northwest in Kenya, and Kalubeye, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Somali, is about 40 kilometers north of that, which is a newer refugee settlement. And so life is pretty much a huge grind up in that place. A lot of hunger, poverty. It's hugely hot. And the new settlement that's up there has sort of really no trees or cover or anything. A lot of orphans, a lot of widows, a lot of people living with trauma. So it's really hard. So what Somali and I were just able to do was to support with a new course of Pema Youth to happen there, and then also to get a couple of the young people he inspired when he was there to come with him and to record a song in the studio that he has. So I think we might have lost Somali just for the moment, but I think what we can do is show you his songs.
Yeah, this is Palma Youth Ambassadors crew from Kakuma Refugees Camp. Present for you a song, which is Water. Sound director. Yep.
You the boy, see the boy. Shackles production. We support to make one thing to be clear. And this I want to say now is idea. Water is everything, we support to care. God give it to us, so just do fair. Because of water, masha tunaendelea. We is working and to do other more. Imagine the work to see sin everywhere. Imagine the work to see sin everywhere. Hakika uka unajipata umesota unaanza kuka kama vile takataka. Wezi harakisha koze maisha ni water kuyakosa unajipata tu umeboheka. Tunatumia kupika kila tena hakika tukiyakosa maji sisi wote tutakufa. Try to believe in a t-shirt in this life. What's it your shusha?
Water is life, to girls can save anyone. Save anyone. Water is life, to girls can save the world. Save the world. Water is life, to girls can save anyone. Save anyone. Water is life, to girls can save the world. Save this Sparrow.
Mr. C. Water is everything, tunategemea kumwagia mimea maji nayo tunakea. No bad thing inaweza kutokea. Time ya mvua mazao yanamea, mazao yana afya tunapata na maji. Kipindi cha jua tunahitaji na water. Tukiwa na maji sioni tukiangaika. Tukiangaika, maji ni bora inabidi tuyalinde. Mifereji kwenye shamba sote tujenge. Maji machafu kwa kweli tujikinge. Baba Mungu kwa anything tulinde. Maji ni muhimu kwa afya zetu, hata na pia kwa uhai wetu. Ndio maana visima hatuwezi kuachana. Visima ni bora kwa jukumu zetu.
Water is life, to girls can save anyone. Save anyone. Water is life, to girls can save the world. Save the world. Water is life, to girls can save anyone. Save anyone. Water is life, to girls can save the world. Save the world.
Don't try to put water on chemical. Kwa sisi wanadamu ni hatari. Hatusaidia kama vile medical. Yani tukikosa maji ni ngori. Popote pale mazingira yako sawa. Sisi wanadamu maji kwetu ni dawa. Cheki miti mbolea yote yako sawa. Cheki miti mbolea yote yako sawa.
Maji yakikosa sote tutakufa, ndo maana tuyalinde kwa kila hatua. Maji yakikosa hatuna pa kwenda. Maji kitu bora my dear. Wanaishi kwenye jangwa wote wanalia. Maji hakuna wanapaka wanateseka. Tutambue haya yote yanatokea. Maji ni salama kwa kila jambo.
Water is life, to girls can save anyone. Save anyone. Water is life, to girls can save the world. Save the world. Water is life, to girls can save anyone. Save anyone. Water is life, to girls can save the world. Save the world. Water is life, to girls can save anyone. Save anyone. Water is life, to girls can save the world. Save the world. Water is life, to girls can save anyone. Save anyone. Water is life, to girls can save the world. Save the world.
Beautiful.
We're just
Lovely.
here from Zanzibar. We're saying hongera sana. Good job. Hongera.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, you know that your talent, Somali, in not only writing these songs together, but then recording them, making them sound so great, sharing the messages that you are through this that include your challenges that you're facing and also, you know, what you're looking to do. And then making movies like that. It's just extraordinary. So, you know, we're really delighted that with Perma Youth, we're able to support you. So any of you who've actually donated this time through, it's a free event, but many of you donated to be here, which is wonderful. And 100% of what you donate to Perma Youth goes to Perma Youth projects like what the work Somali is doing, like what Bemariki is doing and what Ola Tom is doing. So thank you so much for your donations. And every time there's a festival, Somali has committed to sharing one of his songs with us. So thank you so much.
So what I was trying to say is that now what I'm doing is that I want to empower also the Kalbeye to be seen the musician and see the impact of how of what they are doing. Actually, they are new in music industry, but also the graduate from permaculture, and they have the knowledge and the skills. So what now I'm trying to do is that I'm just only going there to encourage them and to give them small directives of how they can create a music that have a message in it about permaculture is what I'm doing, and that is the challenge that I've faced because I entered the studio. That was 6. I entered the studio. I just come back home. It was like 7. So 6 to 7. That is much time that I try to show them some of the things. You know, some of them they have not even entered the studio. So I tried as much I can. Really, they thanks and said that Pumakacha is the one that made this, and it is you people who have made this. So thank you, Maya, and your group for great job and work that you are doing over there. Another thing is that there they have some challenges. Like now, there is no, they don't have a speaker of doing a practice with it. That is the challenge that is there. Also, they have no anything, but also the studio that is made here, it is not because of me. It is just because of everyone, every youth here in the camp. So I have to support and help. That's why that studio is. I want to construct it there. And this studio will give much impact because now the impact is big. As you see in the song of Water, there is some youth that are playing, just playing there inside. Those youth, it is not that I call them, but themselves they come and say, no, we want this because what you are doing, you guys, is very amazing. And that gives me the positive feedback of what I'm doing and encourage that permaculture is growing up daily. Every day is just growing up. So what I need is just a big support, and I'm continuing doing that. So something about the other things, I have talked to Madam Morag about the transport, about how the studio must be, and other things. So we just conclude there. Uh, our store at the garden, yeah. So I just come in our garden and I've tried to do some of the checking here in the garden, and that transport will help because even those who are in Kalbeye come and visit here in Kakuma to see what is going on, so that we can give them impact. You know, musicians, I just before I give them what they will do or direct them, I just brought them in the garden, yeah, and just give them some structure. As you see, this and this is bad, this is good. So you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to design your garden like this. But look, this is how permaculture design for space. So I just give them those structure. So even them they'll be able to develop when they see what they are doing, but not only in oral thing that they give a much difficult. So thank you very much. And I was sick, but now I'm doing greater. So I thank God. So see you next time.
Thank you, Somali. And it's so great. It's like you're saying, having somewhere where people can come and see the garden in action. They learn by seeing, by doing, and by hearing the music, and that it's really vibrant and engaging. And you're doing an amazing job over there, Somali. And you have such a magic team. And we're just so honored to actually be able to support you in your incredible work. And like you're saying, rippling it out every day. So yeah, thank you for doing that. So we talk pretty much, Somali and I talk every day. So I'll speak to you soon, Somali. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. That's why I have something that's called Permaculture Support Youth Talent. Something like that. Some permaculture support youth talent by educating them and them use the talent to spread, because permaculture in Africa right now, there is some people that came to me say that they want to be educated. It's just they are in organization. They come to me and say that, Smiley, no, what you are doing, you guys, what we are seeing in your music and message, we want you to come and educate us here in Kakuma, but also the one that I told you, the one of Congo, and someone is in Tanzania. They want to educate. What I'm doing is just going all over. They just reach those people. So that is much and successfully in permaculture in what we are doing. So that is the great, and feedback come to you, to us, because we try to make a permaculture info and community. So just doing that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Somali.
So thank you very much. So now, Eve, would you like to share your slam poem?
Sure. I just wanted to say thank you, Somali, for your amazing songs and your team's work. It's really inspiring. Okay, so hi, my name is Eve Ballard and I am a co-founder of Permuse and a spoken word poet. So spoken word poetry means forging connections between individuals through words and verse. So I'm here today to connect with you all with a new poem I've written called Knowledge of the Undergrowth. The world could turn to the soil for our survival if we let it. Working hand and root with the shift of the seasons, the soil is restless. Are we so rigid and rooted for the need for success, that branches are growing out of our heads in the guise of our ego, or like a game of chess? As we sit and read books made from the skin of our past, a pinecone bounces off the sun that we cast. The soil is at a loss by the refusal of mankind to believe they are part and parcel of the land they breathe. That fragrance of the soul sings a song so sweet to our souls, drifting into our senses like flowers in buttonholes, marching along fungal communication lines below the earth, stem to stem connecting everything from death to rebirth. Instead of flowers and bees, money grew from our seeds, the food we eat laden with processed sugars that exceeds, lacking the depth and breadth of healthy soil, encouraging farmers to no longer plough but gently grow topsoil. We deprive the gardens of its trees, we swirl and conjure up soups of chemicals to tame the weeds. We strip the landscape of its language in falling leaves, the charge of red taken by the wind as it grieves. Barks quiver at the sight of an axe as they embrace their circles of time. Decayed literature makes the riches of souls at its prime, laid stomped at the same height as the ground. Woods may be cut short, but soon sprouted new life can be found. New roots wake up like the radical thoughts in my mind, whispers and chatters I hear from the creatures of the underground. The soil is my darkened casing, sinking bed where I scuttle free from the explosion of my dread, where I share the same soil, share the same knowledge of the undergrowth. Whatever we produce can come back in the circle of life, for we have fueled the starting fires and are the cause of the weather's strife. Don't you see? The soil is the beginning of us all, I kid you not. Minerals, moisture, the movement of the ants tickling feelings long forgot. I measure kindness can be found, gently laying our hearts out to give back to the ground, working to prevent the nightmares they water you with. The acidic showers they rain, let us remove the rusted skin and connect with what is found within. You are like the weeds, wild, proud, and standing tall. Inhale and exhale the soil's health before roll call. So now I lay down on the floor of the forest I so adore, realizing in the stillness I am home where I belong. No, my form can no longer be contained, shape-shifting in response to the bones, the creaks, the aches, and the dreaming of the Renaissance. While I lay, listening, I grow flowers in my wake. I thank the soul for who I am and who I am not. Thank you.
Amazing poem. Thank you so much. I
thank
particularly like that
I
one.
thank the soil too. There's always such wisdom in your poems, and I don't know whether people realize who are listening to this, Eve, that you are 12, and the depth of the wisdom that comes from your soul is just so profound.
And
Thank
the way
you.
you present it too,
Yeah.
it's really.
Thank you, Eve. And for those who are listening to, Eve is a regular on these festivals. She writes new poetry that she performs for us here, but she also performs on things like the Global Eco Village Network events and other different regenerative events that are happening around. So congratulations, Eve. You have such a talent, and it's just, again, it's such an honor to have you sharing this form of art with us here. Again, another way of really helping us to touch with a different side of ourselves that we may not kind of feel otherwise. It helps us to slow down and notice that, and that kind of first principle, observe and interact. Your poems helps us to slow down and observe and interact in a different way. Thank you. It's just beautiful.
That's what all slam poems
Thank
should be like.
Yes, definitely.
So thank you very much. So Sophia, we're going to show you animations now. So Sophia is from the Philippines. And so Sophia, do you just want to introduce yourself and your things? We're going to show the microplastics one first.
Hello everyone, I am from the Philippines. I discovered animation last year and I discovered that I really enjoyed it. So I made 2 animations and one of them is about microplastic, and I wanted to make this animation about microplastic so I can show people what happens to the plastic if they go into the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Now, Sophia is one of our youngest members, and in the Philippines, she's thinking about starting her very own Junior Perma Youth Hub. So that's very exciting news for us, Sophia. Thank you very much.
So yeah, we'll share your microplastics one first.
Hey everyone, I'm going to talk about microplastics. So, microplastics are just tiny pieces of plastic that has been disintegrated. Microplastic can end up on land, but mostly the water. Once it reaches the water, small fish can mistake it for plankton or microscopic creatures. And then, once a predator eats it, it can die and end up on the shore. If it ends up on the shore, scientists have the chance to open it up and maybe see plastic. So to prevent these side events, we can recycle and replant. Though you shouldn't use pesticide because it has bad chemicals that can harm the environment. Here are some signs that you should follow.
Well done, Sophia.
Sophia, I know you play piano. Were you playing piano on that clip or?
Yes, I was playing the piano.
Wow, fantastic.
No way.
So she's got another one too, which is about the life cycle of a butterfly. So I'm going to share that one now too. Very simple, very nice.
Very clever. Well done, Sophia.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you sent those in so we could see them, Sophia. And it's lovely to have you here at the festival again.
Yeah, thank you. So our final thing is my song that I composed recently. So it's on piano, and so it's called The Waltz of the Spider, which is, the title is actually in French, so it's Valse de l'Arangue. I'm not French, so I feel like that's the right pronunciation, but I'm not sure. Anyway, it sounds fancy. So basically, I composed this by one day when I was out camping. I couldn't get to sleep, so I looked up and there was all these spider webs being made, and they were all like glistening in the moonlight. And that's when spiders make their webs, at nighttime. So, because when you wake up in the morning and you walk through all these spider webs, you're like, where were these? These weren't here yesterday. So anyway, that's kind of like what inspired the start of the song. And then it was kind of through the day, you know, like there's people moving around and then they're like, yeah. And spiders aren't very well liked because they're kind of weird creatures, but they are very important in garden and natural ecosystems, and we really need to appreciate them and not try and kill them when we see them. So yeah, and then it kind of gets a fly to eat something, gets caught in its web, and it wraps it up and eats it. So there's kind of a storyline in the piece if you listen to it. And yeah, also my nana's here, who's Suzanne Raymond, and when I was showing it to her, she said that once ages ago in a gold mining town, there was a very scandalous kind of dancer who used to do this dance of the spider, and she would jump around really boisterously and lift up her dress up to her knees, and all the men could see her ankles, which was outrageous. So spiders are quite boisterous little creatures. So I'm going to share a clip with you. I don't have any video for it, so it's just going to be a sound. I just want to hear that you can hear that before I go on. Is that all good? Yeah, okay, cool.
Maya also does a weekly newsletter. So make sure you go to thepermayouth.org and make sure you sign up for her weekly newsletter, which Eve is now writing a brilliant article for each time. I mean, gosh, all of you Perma Youth are so incredible. So we have links to the work that Bemariki is doing in the Perma Youth he works with. We have links to the work that Somali's doing. We have links to all of the different sorts of work. So if you have anything, whether it be a picture, a poem, a photograph, a design you've done, an idea, a quote, anything, we would love to have different things from Perma Youth Hubs all around the world. Now, there's one thing that Maya didn't get a chance to do now, which was talking about her guide that she's created about how to start up a Perma Youth Hub, but she's going to put that on the website and pop it out in the next newsletter as well. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here tonight, and thank you especially for our wonderful presenters and musicians and poets and everyone who's been here, everyone who's contributed, and thank you everyone for being here. It's just been absolutely fantastic, and thank you, Maya, for hosting.
Thank you so much too.